Section 2. Michael Busemi's artwork is always on the move. His cut paper techniques create compositions mimicking organic movements and elegant patterns found in nature. Busemi began experimenting with this process early in his career by cutting up and reconstructing his watercolor paintings. He was drawn to the meditative repetition of visual control and the spontaneity that cut paper allowed. In Heart of the Sun, Busemi plays with light and shadow to create a subtle, colored glow. Cutting and layering paper builds this effect while manipulating shadow, light, depth, and texture. To create the soft color, Busemi paints the back of the shapes before placing and layering them strategically in places that will catch the backlight. This process gives the piece a sense of glowing from within, while maintaining the striking visual character of a pure white aesthetic. Busemi uses thick cotton rag paper, a number of sharp razor blades, and acrylic paint to create this effect. He resides in San Jose, California. Mayumi Hamanaka started above ground as a way to examine and personalize faraway events in terms of both physical distance and duration of time. Hamanaka presents Above Ground, a series of fictional cutout topographical maps rendered to look like abstract landscapes. The maps are created from historical images of World War I, World War II, and post-war conflicts. Originally from Japan and now residing in California, Hamanaka begins each piece by researching historical and found images and photographing her own surroundings. She then carefully creates intricate cutting patterns to represent a complex history of memories and moments. The top layer in Above Ground 2 was taken in 1945 during the Tokyo air raids, while the bottom images were taken by Hamanaka. The patterns were made in Photoshop and cut with X-Acto knife.
Mounir Fatma blends violence and beauty with a circular saw blade punctured by an Arabic inscription. The calligraphy on this artwork is a surah, or a chapter in the Quran, about God's omnipotence. The translation reads, "Say, He is God the One, the eternally besought of all. He does not beget, nor is he begotten, and there is nothing comparable to him." Like much of Fatma's work, Between the Lines deconstructs religious objects and ideologies related to the Islamic faith. Words are deeply important to his work, and have been since his humble beginnings in Morocco. Fatma's childhood did not have any cultural objects except for a framed calligraphic verse of the Quran and a black and white photograph of the King of Morocco. The only books were the Quran and sometimes an Arabic-French dictionary that was circulated around the neighborhood. As a result, Fatma has a high regard for words in his artwork where he uses Arabic, English, and French. Fatma resides in Paris and Tangier, Morocco.
Ty Zamelski, who runs and lives on an organic farm in Connecticut, considers music to be the root of her art. She began studying violin at an early age and grew up inspired by famous composers like Johann Sebastian Bach and Leonard Bernstein. Bach in particular taught Zamelski a lot about engaging in search and discovery while creating art. Paper cutting, with its repetitive physical movements, lends itself well to this process. Zamelski began cutting paper after her mother died. Upon discovering a pair of old buttonhole scissors in her mother's old sewing kit, Zamelski began making circle-like shapes that she left semi-attached to the paper. When she opened the shape, a bit of light shone through to create a third dimension to the drawing. The tiny windows or in-betweens remind me of the space between heartbeats or breaths or steps or the interior structure of our bones, says Zamelski. They emphasize how we humans often experience one side, our side, when there are many angles from which to consider. To create these cut drawings, Zamelski works with rolls of paper, buttonhole scissors, and an X-Acto knife. She starts in an arbitrary place and makes small cuts on the paper, letting each cut inform the next. The artist says she feels most alive when she eventually slips into a meditative state.
Los Angeles artist Chris Natrop was selected for the Facebook Artist in Residency program in 2016. Through this program, he created a site-specific work that was hung from the ceiling at Facebook's Menlo Park offices. We are very pleased to have his work on our show. Natrop works exclusively with a knife and listens to post-apocalyptic audiobooks while he works. The result is a new type of landscape, reborn out of futuristic visions of an annihilated land. He begins each piece by creating an abstract watercolor painting on various size pieces of Lennox 100 drawing paper. He pins these papers onto his studio wall, which is covered by a self-healing cutting mat. He then turns on an audiobook and begins cutting without pre-planning or drawing. Chris considers this process a stream of consciousness, a meditation of repetition and reduction. How does he know when the work is complete? When there's nothing else to do.
You may never look at a chain-link gate the same way again. Los Angeles artist Margaret Griffith didn't grow up in a community with chain-link gates, but she notices them everywhere now that she lives in Los Angeles, and they are a prolific source of inspiration for her. Karinga is a sculptural collage of 5 different gate replicas that are hand-cut and paper-clipped together. The title Karinga comes from the street where one of the gates is located. You can see the letters ORINGA in the central cutout piece that was derived from an iron driveway gate.
Cut Up, Cut Out, on exhibit June 26th through August 23rd. Visit MaslinMuseum.org for more information.